Hi everyone, my name is Edwin Romero, independent SEO consultant, and today I'd like to continue my video series on Salesforce Commerce Cloud and SEO. Before deep diving into SEO configurations within Commerce Cloud, it's going to be significant to distinguish the various environments that can exist for any one Commerce Cloud site. To do that, I like to walk through what an environment actually is and how you might use it. If you'd like to follow along, I've included the link to my Salesforce Commerce Cloud SEO guide in the description below. And don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter, hashtag pragmatic SEO, linked in the description below. Let's get started. An environment at the highest level possible is essentially a location where a site exists. It can be a live environment, but also keep in mind as a website is being built, there should be an environment where the site build actually occurs. That is, where a site is being put together. Lastly, there are also environments that help with testing. Now, it can be a QA environment, it can be the development environment or another environment, but it's not uncommon to have separate environments that host the live site, that host a development site, as well as that host a QA site. Now, let's talk about what kind of environments you might expect to come across when dealing with Commerce Cloud sites. Within Commerce Cloud sites, there are sandbox environments. So these are environments that are enclosed and kind of like a sandbox you get to play around and tinker with. A QA environment, essentially a Commerce Cloud environment where you can test extensively. A development environment where the Commerce Cloud site is being put together. A staging environment where this final site is put together and it's essentially right before it goes to a live environment or something that is accessible to users. And ultimately a production environment that is akin to a live environment. So why is it necessary to understand these types of environments? Well, there might be some things that you can do in one environment that you cannot do in other environments. For example, sandbox QA and development environments are typically siloed. That is, they do not interact with one another. There is no direct relationship amongst these environments, nor a direct relationship with staging or production. That's not always the case, but by and large, what I've seen is that these websites do remain siloed, and what happens in one environment may not impact another. Conversely, staging has a direct relationship with production. Staging is an environment where a site lives before it's pushed out live and accessible to users. The settings and configurations that you implement within staging get replicated over into production. Something to keep in mind is the replication cycle, or how often it goes from staging on over to production. Some brands have it set for daily replications, other brands have it set for weekly replications, or anywhere between a few days to a couple of weeks. Now you might be wondering, well, what if I configure all my SEO settings in something like a sandbox, QA, and development? Well, it's significant to understand which environment you're dealing with and ultimately how you can take that data or configurations that you've set and bring it on over to a location like a staging environment. In such cases, I advise that you work with your development counterparts to engage in a data merge. That is, taking the data from these other siloed environments and bringing them on over to a staging environment. The last thing I want to talk about in regards to the relationship between staging and production is that there are certain SEO settings within staging that get replicated on over to production, such as metadata, content assets, robots.txt. But there are other settings where the production environment has to be configured. This is particularly significant for the XML sitemap. Now keep in mind, across all of these, you may face complications on configuring certain settings or even getting the site to work. This is why I encourage you all to work with your development counterparts to stand up these various environments and their sites so that they can be easily configurable. Now that you have an understanding of the nuances that exist across all these environments, I hope that you can configure your Commerce Cloud sites with more intention. That is, if you want to test something, you can test it within a sandbox, QA, or development environment, or you're pretty confident with these settings that you want to put in place and you want to configure them within the staging environment. I hope that this video has been helpful. I understand it's brief, but it's pretty significant to understand the relationships that exist across all environments. Now, as you configure your SEO settings, it's going to be significant to understand the environments that do exist for your brand. With that, I encourage you to have conversations with your development partners to understand where they prefer you to configure those SEO settings. Additionally, it's going to be significant to understand what the data merge looks like, as you're going to want to take the configurations you made in any one siloed environment and bring them on over to staging right before it goes live. With that, thank you for joining me in this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.